Hello, welcome to Pecan Corner. Well, Paul's not feeling very good today, so there we go. See that where I make sure I'm getting you guys in the picture on things. Paul's not feeling very good today, so I'm gonna make my great-grandmother's homemade egg noodles. We normally have it with a stewed chicken, but I have canned turkey, so we're gonna use it for that. Our water's gonna be turned off in about 30 minutes, and it'll be off probably the rest of the daylight hours while the city's working on it. It was off most of the day yesterday till about 8 o'clock last night, and I've got my dishwasher going, so I'm sorry about the noise, but it's got to finish before this. I'm glad they gave us notice this time. That's a big help for us. I've got my flour canister in the dishwasher washing. It was nearly empty, and so that was a good time to wash it about ever so often. For this recipe, Big Grandmother would make it with just 1 cup of flour to make for for just her. But for us, I use 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of lard. You can use shortening, you can use butter, you can use whatever your favorite fat is. And since I don't want to have to get things dirty, I'm gonna eye up my 1/4 cup here. I think that looks like about a 1/4 cup to me. Save me getting my measuring cup dirty since my dishwasher's already going. All right, now set those aside. Lard in Spanish is manteca, so if you see that, you'll be able to get your lard. I started buying lard because I couldn't find shortening that didn't have soybean oil in it, and I'm trying to get soy out of our diets. It's really bad for men, and so I don't want Paul to have it in his diet, so I try to watch out for that. So I'm just going to mix the lard in with my flour here. I've got, I don't know if you can see it or not, I've already got my water. This is a good time to rotate our water storage. I don't know how much longer they're going to be working on this. They've been doing it for a month now or more, a couple of months, I guess. And anyway, this is a good time to rotate through my water storage and get to and have it be all fresh and new again. So every day I bring in a couple more bottles and use them. It was great to have it. Last night I had planned on making spaghetti for supper, and without my water storage I wouldn't have been able to, but as it was, I just brought in some stored water, used that to boil up my pasta in, and it worked out fine. So we were only slightly inconvenienced by the water being off. We didn't have to change our entire plans on what we were going to have for dinner or how we were going to spend our day, so that helped a lot. Just work that all in until it's good and crumbly, and I'm going to use eggs here. Well, here, I'll just use one. Since I've already got my flour one dirty, I'll just use it. I'm going to use 2 eggs. We buy eggs from our friends who have chickens, and they don't wash their eggs because they'll keep longer if they're not washed. Shell in there. Don't want to have any shell in there. Okay. Now this is something that I suppose it could be done with a fork, but I have always used my hands. My grandmother used her hands, and so do I. It does get them a little bit messy, but it just makes makes it work better. Now, we did have dumplings sometime. One branch of my family made dumplings, like biscuit type dumplings, small ones cut up. And then, but this branch of the family, my mother's side of the family, always had egg noodles, not dumplings. It's just so it's just how, you know, what's traditional in the family. And with these nice fresh eggs that have been hand raised, the dough will have a nice, lovely yellow color to it that's really, really good. You won't get quite as much of that with store-bought eggs. The secret of this is it's the eggs that provide the moisture. Normally, you don't have to add water. You can add a little bit if you need to get it to hold together good. And I may have to here, but or I could add another egg, and that's probably, looking at how much this still needs, I'm going to use one more egg instead. Get my cup back here. And I'm using a smaller egg this time. Those were large eggs. You know, when you're getting yard eggs, a lot of times you get all different sizes, and I like that because that, you know, we might want a different size one for Paul. Might want a large one for his breakfast, and I might want a small one for mine. I don't usually eat breakfast though, so if I'm eating breakfast, it's at supper time. We haven't had this in a while. I don't think I made it last year while Paul was sick. I normally use my my little enamel bowl for this, but I thought it might be easier for y'all to see if I use this glass bowl. Kind of helps you see more about what's going on. And we used to always roll these out by hand. However, my mother-in-law gave me this this pasta machine, and since I got it, I use it for rolling this out with because it's so much thinner. It makes them really nice and thin. But I still cut them myself because this machine, the widest noodle it'll cut is a fettuccine linguine. Anyway, that's not wide enough for these noodles. So I'll just work this in. This is not like a biscuit dough where you're not supposed to work it much. It doesn't hurt a thing to work this one. I want as little moisture as I can get in it because I have to dry them out before I cook them. All right, now then, I'm going to that right there. Fill this up with water. Need this. Get those little bits in there. Then I'm going to drop it in. Break it into two pieces because it won't all go through my roller at the same time. I might have to break it into 4 pieces here. Roll it out good. Okay. Now then, let's see. Okay, good. I think I've got this where you guys can see it. Wrong one. There we go. set it at the largest setting because I want these kind of thick still. I'm not going to make these as thin as I would an Italian pasta. This is a rustic home dish. It's not a, like I said, it's not an Italian pasta. This is an American pasta. Probably developed out of German pastas or something. But see how it's kind of falling apart. As we run this through 2 or 3 times, it'll get conditioned. The dough will get conditioned. And if you've ever worked, and it'll gradually get to where it's not crumbling like this. The moisture will spread through the dough. The other thing you can do is you can let your dough sit for a while. I'm trying to get this completed to film it for you all, but I could let my dough sit, wrap it in plastic, or if you don't want to use plastics, put some beeswax. Use some beeswax to cover some fabric and make some waxed fabric that you can then use for things like this to cover them, and then you can wash it and clean it with a cloth so that it stays clean. Okay. Might need to put a little bit more. See how it's starting to stay together a little bit better? Just kind of gradually getting a little bit better. I'll be back when I've gotten this completely conditioned. I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit shorter, or I'll put y'all on hold. All right, I'm back. Well, guess I have the dropsy today. I took a few minutes and went ahead and washed my bowls while I still had water. Get that done. So I left my dough sitting under that bowl that I just threw in the floor so that it wouldn't dry out while I waited. And the little wait was good for it. See, it's coming together real nicely now. Like I said, I'm not gonna decrease the size of my roller width here because I don't want it super thin like I would oh, there we go. Now then it's coming together. Okay. So what I'll do is roll this out, and then I'll fold it together once. If you're rolling it by hand, you won't have this because you're rolling it thicker, really. And what's happening here is it's trying to push so much dough through the wringer that it kind of separates. There we go. Just fold it in half once. This will probably be the last time I'll put it through there. There we go. All right, there's that one. I'll do the same thing with this other half. And if you're rolling it out by hand, it's perfectly okay to use plenty of flour on it. You don't have to You don't want it to be sticky. Before I start cutting this, I will put down flour, because I want flour on the outside of it, dry powdery flour on the outside of it as it dries. Number one, to absorb some moisture, but also because that flour is part of what's going to thicken the broth as it cooks. These little pasta machines used to be hard to find, but nowadays they're pretty widely available. You know, a lot of people bought them to do crafts with, sculpting and things like that. Or they're like every other kind of kitchen appliance. People get them and they don't use them, so you can find them. You can often find them at garage sales and things too, but they're not that expensive new. Go. And they're a big help if you do want to make Italian style pastas, because you can roll them super thin. Much thinner than I am able to get them by hand. Some of you men might have the strength to roll them out thinner with the rolling pin, but I don't. All right, now then, I'm going to put some more. Notice I had to use my small cutting board to make my table wide enough to hold to anchor down the pasta machine. It wants a thicker surface than I had. Alright, now my little trick is to use my pizza cutter to cut these. I want them to be about a ½ inch thick or so. Mine are never, ever even. That one's too thick. I'm going to have to split it down the middle there. There we go. You can make them really long, but for this kind of a pasta, we don't want to, you know, have to curl it around our forks to pick it up. So these lengths are plenty long enough. But if you want it longer so that you can hang it over, I have done it in much longer lengths so that, you know, so that I could hang it over a rail to dry. I'm just going to, with these small batches. I used to have to make very large batches when the boys were home, and there wasn't any room to lay everything out so that it could dry properly. And so I had to hang it up over a rack, but now I have plenty of room, so since it's just a small batch for just the two of us. Alright, now I have some white dish towels that I don't use for anything but food. I use it for laying food on or covering food with, and that's what I'm going to lay this on while it dries. The cloth will help absorb some of the moisture out of them, help them dry faster. And I'm just going to spread them all out here. Let them dry. And I will let them dry for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. The longer the better, but they don't need to be completely dry. What you want to do is have them dry enough that when they go into the water, they'll rehydrate with some of that nice chicken broth. These are not one that we can allow to dry and then save safely dehydrated. There's not with all that egg in there. I wouldn't. There are ways that you can dry your eggs, and some of the folks have done it, but I haven't ever tried it. But I think I haven't ever read what safe instructions would be for drying pasta that has eggs in it, homemade pasta. So if anybody knows how to do that, I would love if you would do a video about it, because I'd love to learn how to make it with eggs that I could dry. The pastas that I know to dry are made with just flour and the water, not with egg in them. So if you know how to do that so that you can have your own homemade dried pasta, that would be great. I would just dearly love to see that. All right, that's it. I'm going to let them dry for a couple hours now, and then I'll be back when I'm ready to cook them. Thank you. All right, it's been a couple of hours, and actually it's been about 3 hours, and I've turned my noodles a couple of times, and now I've got some broth boiling here. I'm going to cook them in these. Oops, now I've got flour everywhere. That's all right. Okay. All right, now then. Spoon. Turn the fire down. Oh, I don't want it to cook. I don't want it to boil too much. I don't want it to burn anything. All right, now then. I've got my turkey. Like I said, normally I'd use, we usually would stew a chicken and take it off the bone and use the broth from that. But I've got this turkey that I can. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to put the broth in, but I'm going to try to not put the meat in until after this is cooked. There we go. Because I want the meat to stay in pretty good sized pieces. Okay. Now I'm going to just let that, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, and I'm going to let that simmer. I'm going to let this simmer for probably a good hour at least. You know, it's one of those things that you taste of it, and it's, for some reason, it seems to me that every batch is slightly different in how long it takes to cook. It may be that, you know, there's more humidity one day and less others, and so sometimes the noodles are a little drier, or they're but anyway, I'm going to bring this back to boil. If I need a little more liquid in it, I'll just add a little water. If you're short on broth, you could use some bouillon or some chicken base. And if you do use bouillon or base, be sure and add some butter to it so that you get the richness, since you won't have the fat from the chicken to use. So I'll let this stew for a while, and then I'll be back. All right, and here's the final result. There's the noodles, chicken with turkey in them, and the nice. See, I didn't need to add any extra flour to thicken the broth. The flour that was on the noodles from me flouring them, what you saw there, that was all that went into that. So makes a good hearty meal. These cooked for 2 hours, simmered for 2 hours. All right, thanks so much. Hope you all enjoy it. If you like it, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thank you. Bye.